after his multiple denials, he later said he couldn't rule out whether an alleged meeting might have taken place. Here's Rudy going in circles.
There's no second meeting here. It's highly unlikely. I always have to leave the option open as a lawyer in case they come across with something that really startles us or fills some of the things that we feel are important.
I'm joined now by Michael Schmidt, Washington correspondent for the New York Times, and Paul Butler, former federal prosecutor. I want to ask a journalist question and a legal question. It seems to me that the government of the United States is now in the hands of a troika. Sean Hannity, Rudy Giuliani, and Donald Trump. They are the people that talk to each other. They're the ones in together in this cabal to save his butt. It seems like they are really the close, that's the tongue, that's the crew. What do you think when you cover this? They talk all the time.
Are you saying they're the ones that are driving the entire thing, that Sean Hannity has a huge hand in this presidency? Of course he does.
But on the defense of the president, on the charges of colluding with the Russians, they seem to be backing and forth. They're harmonizing their words. They're talking to each other every couple of hours.
What has been the president's greatest strength in his defense? Fox News. And who has led that? Sean Hannity. I mean, Strzok-and-Page text messages are a cornerstone of that show. This is the FBI agent who sent these text messages that showed anti-Trump bias.
Strzok, yeah.
Yeah, so why are you surprised by
I'm just
that?
I'm trying to enunciate to the best of my ability, Mr. Schmidt. What has come to me is this seems to be the midnight. Roosevelt once sent over Harry Hopkins over to London. He said, tell me who he speaks to after midnight. No, we know who he speaks to after midnight, Rat.
But this is a question.
Rudy and Sean. But that's a hell of the United States government.
This is a question that people in Washington have asked, that if Fox News was around during Nixon, what would have happened to Nixon? Where would public opinion have been?
With Rabbi Korf.
Would he been able to defend himself?
Remember him, the last defender of Nixon, get off his back. Let me get back to the law here for a second, because I think we agree on this, that this is a very unique kind of junta that runs the country right now. The denial, the collusion, is a crime. Well, he doesn't use your lawyerly language because you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
So Rudy's losing non-lawyer language. Collusion is not a legal term. But conspiracy is.
That's
and
right.
Advancing a conspiracy it makes you a co-conspirator.
Yes. So if you look at the U.S. Federal Criminal Code, there are 4,000 crimes, but you won't see something called collusion. You will see conspiracy, and it's got to be a conspiracy to break a law like computer hacking or soliciting illegal campaign contributions or trying to subvert the election. So when Mueller is charged collusion, the actual crime has usually been conspiracy to defraud the United States, which Jared Kushner, Don Jr. have exposure to if they knowingly accepted material support for the campaign from the Russians.
So they go to that meeting, if they had a meeting before that meeting, but they still went to that after they had deliberation over it.
Yes.
That makes it a lot more serious.
Well, it sure makes it a big deal.
It's like when the kids reloaded their guns to shoot the parents. Remember that case? I mean, there might be some deliberation here when they reloaded. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a pre-meeting. So you only have a pre-meeting if the actual meeting is a big deal, which makes it even harder to believe that Trump Sr. didn't know about it.
Why is Rudy diddling around about whether there was a second meeting or not? Why is he playing that game? Do you know, Michael?
Well, the questions came up about the first meeting.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get out in front as much as they can on this question. And that's what they're doing. They think the only exposure the president has is public opinion.
So if they give it a soft landing, if they put out all the news about there was a meeting, that, all right, the president may have known about the meeting, blah, 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 they give it all away before the prosecutors bring it out, they think that's a softening up of the attack, and they can get through it.
Well, what other choices do they have?
They don't have one. In an interview with the Daily Beast, Rudy Giuliani attempted to explain why he brought up the allegation of another previously undisclosed campaign about Russia 2 or 3 days before the infamous Trump Tower meeting took place. According to the story, quote, Giuliani appeared to blame the maelstrom he kicked up on inquisitive New York Times reporters who he suggests had compelled him to proactively spin a potentially damaging story. Giuliani told the Daily Beast that this included the paper's star Trump reporter Maggie Haberman. In his statement, however, Maggie Haberman told the Daily Beast, we don't talk about sourcing and wouldn't now, but I have lost the thread of what the former mayor is talking about. I think that's a pretty good line from your colleague there. But why is Rudy Giuliani spinning the story of 2 meetings, the second meeting as well as the first meeting, and then saying, I'm not saying there was a second meeting, but I want to talk about it. In fact, I'll even tell you who's at the meeting. I think that I can't even admit occurred.
I think that one of the things he struggles with is the fact that there are so many fronts that the president has to deal with. There's the Cohen questions, there's the collusion questions, there's the obstruction questions. And if you're going to be the lead spokesman for all of this, you need to be very well versed in them and be able to fight all of those questions at the same time. It looks
So
like
he has to spit out a story that he doesn't believe so he can show he's aware of what's coming at him.
he's under enormous amount of pressure from the president. The president is obviously incredibly frustrated with this investigation. And Giuliani is frustrated that he thought he could come in and bring an end to this, that he could get Mueller to, to say we're done.
What's the legal term, the courtroom term for a lawyer who confuses the jury?
I don't know, Rudy Giuliani, a TV lawyer, but again, the jury pool sounds like it's a criminal matter. And we know that Robert Mueller, even if he finds evidence of a crime by Trump, is not going to indict him. He's going to write a report to Congress, and then it will be up to politicians. And so Rudy is making a political argument, and the significance is that Trump's real lawyer, Emmett Flood, is meeting with Mueller. And from the increasing desperation by Giuliani and Trump, it sounds like Trump's real lawyer is hearing from Mueller that the investigation is now centering on Mr. Trump. And so they got to come out with a defense. Don't have a criminal defense, but this political defense may be effective with the Republicans in Congress.
How much of this is just what is it called, reasonable doubt? Just try to say, get the 40% of the country that likes Trump in their gut and just give them something to buy, like a jury that wants to acquit a guy.
They sit down, look at the calculation. The only exposure is impeachment. And impeachment is about a vote in the House. And those votes are from the people. And if you can push public opinion, then you can control that vote. That is their only aim at this point.
Well, Julian also said last night that the prospect that the president will testify has become, oh, here's a big surprise, less likely. And he said the special counsel's probe, that would be Mueller's, was not legitimate. Let's go with this.
Given some of the revelations of the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been driven further away from the idea of answering any questions from them. We don't think they have a legitimate investigation.
Do you think they will subpoena you? Is there going to be a constitutional fight?
Well, then there'll be a constitutional fight. I mean, I think we win it.
Will they win it?
I don't
Will the
know.
president refuse to testify and the courts will back him up?
It would take a really long time. You know, one theory about why the president has not been subpoenaed, the Department of Justice has a practice that if you're a target of the investigation, they don't subpoena you. So if President Trump has evolved from a subject, which means he's just being investigated, to someone who the investigation is centering on, they wouldn't subpoena him.
Because he wouldn't want, he'd have the Fifth Amendment on his side.
Yeah, he could take the Fifth, but again, their practice is if we're going to charge you with a crime, then it's not fair for us to come in and expect you to talk to.
If a president can't be indicted, can a president still take the Fifth just for his own public PR?
Yes, because even under the Justice Department guidelines, he can't be indicted while sitting in office. But after he's removed from office, he could be charged with a crime.
But it's a political problem if he takes the Fifth.
Yeah.
If it gets out that the president could
But
not
he says
answer,
it's an illegitimate investigation.
well, then we're back to the
There's
witch
so
hunt.
much BS going on here. They can say anything. Haven't we learned that?
It's a little confusing.
I agree with Maggie Haberman. I've lost the thread of the defense. Amid all these developments, Trump's allies in the media, he has some, have been escalating their attacks on the special counsel Mueller. Let's watch some of the Trumpians go to war against against the prosecutors the prosecutors.
Because the special counsel is leaking left and right, behaving like nothing so much as a prosecutor. He is more, if you will, he's on a jihad of some sort, and it's an ideologically inspired jihad.
So we are now 439 days into the Trump-Russia collusion witch hunt, and still nothing, zero evidence that Donald Trump or his campaign did anything wrong. It is the worst example of political persecution in U.S. history.
I don't know. What do you make of that? Is that logic?
I mean, I think of the last indictment of the Russians, which said it wasn't just some vague conspiracy to subvert democracy, but in fact, the Russians worked with unnamed Trump officials to try to get Donald Trump elected president. So the Russians put their hand in our national political operation. Doesn't sound like a witch hunt or politics. It sounds like national security.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.